Spider-Man No Way Home promised us a different Spider-Man moving forward. The Homecoming trilogy has a lot of criticisms. It seemed like we were going to really move away from that. And then we get our first look at Brand New Day with a new director. We got a new suit. It seemed like everything that we saw was more and more exciting. The trailers were incredible. Marvel's been on a pretty good run recently. It seemed like there was no way that Spider-Man Brand New Day could miss. And then it just smashed it. I'm not even going to say, oh, and then it was a disaster. No, it's incredible. It's everything that I've ever wanted. This is one of the best Spider-Man movies, and I would say that it's potentially the best live-action Spider-Man film since Spider-Man 2.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
That's a high praise. Wow. Yeah, I gotta say, I thought this film was really fascinating because you can really see the shift from Homecoming to here. I have to say, this was such a bloody good film.
This is the Out of Time Film Podcast, where your hosts Tom and John discuss everything from blockbuster films to TV and games like there's no tomorrow.
We've done a lot of John Watts bashing on this podcast. I recently rewatched the Homecoming trilogy, and you know what? It's not nearly as bad as all the bashing. I think that we will return to those films one day because
One day.
they're pretty good. I definitely think that John Watts did some great stuff in that trilogy and has done other great stuff. But we're bringing in Destin Daniel Cretton here. Shang-Chi, which is another one that I now want to revisit, was one that I really enjoyed. And then Wonder Man. It came out of nowhere and it was just a masterpiece. So all eyes were on him. And how is he going to translate this? And I don't think an MCU film has ever felt so real and tangible and down to earth while also being perfectly in a comic book universe. People are showing up all over the show. Everything is established. It integrates everything so well while also making it feel like a human story at the center, which I absolutely adored.
Yes, and I loved Tom Holland's performance in this film, along with Zendaya and then Sadie Sink as the mysterious character, which we can't say just yet, because then that would ruin the whole podcast right here.
We would never do that.
Who are
that
we?
Well, come on.
Wow.
She plays the Green Goblin.
Oh my God. We do get to see some villains in this movie.
Yes.
Literally in the opening minutes of the movie, you do get to see Scorpion back. Guys, we have Scorpion back in the Big 2-6. He's back from Homecoming.
I'm a simple guy. Sometimes if you just tie a loose end in the MCU, I'm happy. Just knowing that post-credit scene is no longer a hanging thread, I'm just like, yes, brilliant. Yes. So good to see him again.
Yes.
It's Boomerang, it's Tarantula. It's a very fun little sequence where we get to see what Spider-Man's been up to. No mention of Kingpin.
Where was Spider-Man? Come on, we need to address this.
Genuinely, where is he?
Where was he in Little Sicily? Where was he during Thunderbolts?
We're probably never going to find out now because this was our opportunity to see it. But we see that he has been like seeing different villains, and there's no big Spider-Man nemesis in this. The villain very much is more cerebral. It's more internal. I've seen some people complain about the lack of a real villain from this, but we've had 8 Spider-Man films that have all provided villains, and sometimes there's even more than one villain in those films. I think across the 8 Spider-Man films, not including repeat villains, we've had about 11 of them. Taking a break is a good idea. A lot of people said, oh, it could have been Mr. Negative, which would be great. I'd love to see Mr. Negative, but look at the story they're telling and the way that they've done it. I think that this clash between man and monster, the main monster of the movie is man. That's right. I'm getting pretentious up here.
He's getting pretentious, guys. But no, it's a really nice film because it's like a missing Lego piece. This film feels like you found it and you put it back in. And we do have to address the idea of why is MJ back from No Way Home and Ned as well. It's like, oh God, is it going to be a bit repetitive? But this was really, really heartbreaking. Spider-Man, he's suffering again. He's suffering.
Yes!
He's learning.
I want Peter Parker miserable.
Yes. This film really explores Peter Parker at a human level.
It really does lead on from the emotions of No Way Home's ending. They're not necessarily going straight back into Peter and MJ as a relationship. And I was so worried. There's a scene on a building with Spider-Man and MJ in front of a neon sign, and a certain thing happens that I was like, well done, Destin Daniel Cretton. You've fumbled.
And then you walk out the cinema.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, enjoy the movie.
God damn it. Yeah. I was loving this, and you've just thrown it all away for what? And then the scene continued, and I was like, hold on, something
Hold
isn't
on.
right here. And then when the scene reaches its most tense point, you go, oh my God, that's genius. It's very cleverly playing with those ideas. And there is this really fascinating one where the scenes with Spider-Man and MJ in this are just as important as the scenes with Spider-Man and Ned. But it's not just about MJ. And I think I really like that.
Yeah, it really reminded me of Guardians 3. With Quill, he has this longing for this version of Gamora to come back to him, but it doesn't work out like that. And then let's talk about the look of the film because it's
Yes.
so completely different from the
Oh,
trilogy.
yeah.
My God, this might be the best looking Spider-Man film, I think. Like with the suits, it just feels way more colorful. The MCU has brought back its colorist. They're back from retirement, they're back from the gray man.
New York isn't just a grey city with NPCs. There are so many moments with civilians in this film where every single person feels like a person with a life. It has so much humanity and so much humor. There's a bit where one guy's like, I'd never do that to you, Spider-Man. I love you. I just think it's so funny.
I'm so impressed of how this film looks. It's so visually different. The whole community of New York just feels alive. Like there was some pretty good world building in terms of how it feels like Peter is actually engaging with the community and actually saving people in New York. It's really nice. I really love the suits. The suits just brings out more energy and it doesn't feel CGI.
The suit is real, it's tangible, it's got ripples in it, it's not tech-based, and it does have some tech elements actually, but it never feels like it's just a CGI guy waltzing around, which is what it felt like in the Homecoming trilogy so often. And you can tell they clearly cared. There have been featurettes where they talk about trying to get the suit right, and Tom Holland has talked about going on the internet and just looking at forums and posts of people just talking about what they want to see from Spider-Man. Yeah, and they talked about developing this suit as a response to what Peter 1 might have learned from Peter 2 and 3 in No Way Home and taking influence from that. And I think that all of that, it just shows that they care and shows that they've taken those criticisms on board. I very much respect the Homecoming films for wanting to give us something different and wanting to tie it into the MCU in a specific way. But we've had that now, and I think to go back to the more classic thing is great. It all looks great.
The CGI was great. I don't think it really was jarring. I think there was some really good bits with CGI, especially for later moments as well.
I do think the CGI sometimes, for me, had some moments. There's a couple of times where we see swinging with faces, if that makes sense. Like, Peter does a swing without his suit on. He's swinging while holding MJ. And to me, those moments were a little bit more shaky. But clearly, there's so much going on in terms of VFX in this film with Hulk and with the different supervillains and superpowers and stuff. So I can forgive some janky VFX, of course.
And Punisher, we have to talk about Punisher in this movie. Because recently we talked about Punisher, One Last Kill. Check it out. I was like, how is he going to fit in this movie? With the Hulk and the hand and Sadie Sink's possession stuff. He was a brilliant character in this because it just feels way more goofy. He gives really good advice to Peter, apart from the killing stuff. And the movie does lightly remind us what he has lost. But there's a brilliant dynamic duo that's been happening, between Punisher and Spider-Man. And they argue and they just try to get stuff done.
During the middle sequence in the tower, there's a shot where we see them arguing over CCTV. It's one of the funniest things I've ever seen because they're both using their arms, just like, what are you doing? And just,
let me tell you something.
Yeah, exactly. You just know they're having just a massive blowout. Punisher is so funny. He's the funniest part of this film, but I don't think they at all lose the Punisher that we have come to know over Daredevil and Punisher. And that's exactly what I wanted. This is exactly what I said that we needed from Punisher. Bring him into a more pulpy setting, and I think he works amazingly. He carries his same morals. I've really enjoyed how Peter's always saying, hey, remember I saved your life that one time? And he's like,
in Staten Island.
He's like, oh, come on, you're going to bring it up again. I just thought it was amazing. And as you say, we do get some emotions with Punisher as well. And I think this is exactly how it should have been done. They did not put a foot wrong with him. I think it's very cool that Peter has relationships with superheroes. It's a part of just the established nature of this film. He also has a relationship with Jean DeWolff. Now, Spider-Man comic fans, you know that Jean DeWolff is the GOAT. I am so happy to see her. I thought she was brilliant. She was excellently portrayed by Liza Colón-Zayas. Hope I'm pronouncing that right, because she was incredible. It's a very Batman Commissioner Gordon dynamic between the two. I love the ongoing bit about, do you know my kids' names? And the fact that her and Spider-Man are genuinely working together and are friends. When things go bad, she doesn't immediately turn on him. She's like, I know you and I know this isn't you, but we need to properly sort this out. And I think that's a really great element to introduce. Maybe they will do The Death of Jean de Wolf down the line. It's a great comic book, but it's great. And I think all of this kind of leads into this internal struggle of the film between man and monster, as I kind of said earlier. Every single superpowered character in this film is struggling with their humanity and what they can do to control themselves or have their different perspectives on their work. You know, Punisher is very happy to kill people. Banner is still almost afraid of the Hulk in many ways. And then Peter himself is going through these changes.
The movie really explores Peter's struggle with the arachnid level. He has to control his human and arachnid powers, which is interesting because Tom Holland wanted to explore Man Spider, but he said,
yes,
we don't want to make that horrifying because we want to make this film for children as well. So it's interesting to see that arc as well, because there's one moment where he fights Scorpion and he has this crazy outburst with the arachnid powers that sets up really nicely later on.
We kind of see in the trailers, we got organic webbing, but that's just the start of what he's going through. He loses his heart, his friends, and he begins to struggle with his own isolation. At that center, it's this story of being human and not being alone. It really got me.
Yeah, it really gets me too. Can we talk about spoilers?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. Massive spoilers. My favorite moment in this movie is when Peter fights the possessed hand and he fully embraces the arachnid powers. And Sadie Sink says, "Who are you? Are you Spider-Man? Are you Peter Parker?" And then there's this beautiful moment where Peter says, "I'm both." He fully takes on the arachnid powers and he has this brilliant moment to fight them head on.
It's fantastic. I will say this won't be an issue on rewatch, but in terms of the first time round, every single one of the film set pieces were in the trailers, and it's such a shame because after he says I'm both, he rips apart this sword with his webs, and it's so cool and it's so powerful. It was just these moments where I'm just like, oh, that's such a shame. But by no means do you get the emotional side of this film from the trailer. I think that's all really great. One thing that I adored was the scene where Peter and Ned just build Lego together.
Yeah.
With MJ drawing them as well. There's the line about her drawing people in Homecoming. I thought it was so delightful to have Peter Parker experience some joy again.
Yeah. And then Punisher, he gets to be goofy when Peter leaves the hospital. Everybody thinks Spider-Man is still in the hospital, and it's Punisher cosplaying as Spider-Man, and he just gets to be a little goofy.
Brilliant.
It's so wholesome, really, like to see that.
And that little kid looks at Peter and gives him the web because the kid knows that that's Spider-Man. Now that is just perfect. I've always loved the idea that kids are the most important thing. It's like in Love and Thunder when the kids all get the powers and the kids get to see themselves as the hero. These heroes are all about inspiring us all, but especially when you're young. And I think, that was just so delightful. Did you think that he was gonna die when he got shot by Punisher? A really lovely bit.
No, I was like, good save here.
I was like, oh my god, and then I was like, oh wait, no, there was a shot of him in the trailer after this, so he's not dead. Although I think it's a lovely thing that Jean, because Sadie Sink is Jean Grey. What a shocker. She is keeping him alive. She's breathing for him until he wakes up, which I thought that was amazing. And now, of course, let's talk about Jean Grey.
I actually thought it was going to be different because I did know about the leaks, but I was like, I want to be wrong. I want to be wrong about it's not Jean Grey. I want to be someone different.
I hoped it was Hope Summers.
That would be really interesting.
Well, you know, Hope comes from the future, so there's a whole nother level. You make it a little bit more complicated, but we have seen Jean twice now, and she has been a big part of quite a few X-Men films. Famke Janssen and Sophie Turner both did different versions of Jean, and even though I wanted it to be Hope, Sadie Sink is a phenomenal Jean Grey. The writing that they give her, this whole idea of a young woman ostracized and tortured by damage control, by the powers that be, is so tragic.
And Jean Grey is searching for her sister, Sarah Grey.
Apparently, she's in like 12 issues. I didn't know she had a sister.
Me neither. I was like, yeah, sure, why not? I was wondering, are they going to tease another X-Men? Well, Jean Grey is trying to find answers to this mysterious VMAX. Why she received this message from her sister about VMAX, what it is. And I thought, is it going to be like a cheap MacGuffin? But then it's a very clever pivotal moment for her because she discovers VMAX in the testing room where damage control is experimenting her. She looks up to the ceiling and the ventilation shaft says the words VMAX. You know, Zara, she wanted to escape from damage control, and that's her sister's last moment to see that. That to me was like such a dark moment in the story. It's like, what's Jean gonna do? And she completely takes over New York. That was pretty surprising to see how they make her stronger as well.
Yeah, she'll definitely get the purple energy from the comics, I'm sure, at some point. And that's kind of where they're headed with her leveling up. You would be angry at the world after losing everything. In the same way that Peter has lost everything, she's lost everything, and they're reacting to it in different ways. She's lashing out. She's younger than him, and he is telling her that there is a way forward. And I thought that was so great. This is the same Spider-Man who saved the Vulture and wanted to save all the No Way Home villains.
Bruce as well, like, tries to talk out of the Hulk. It's really cool.
And he does it again here. It's perfect. It is so dark. I mean, this is the first mutant in Earth 199999. I know they call it Earth 616, but that's stupid. Immediately, we're coming out of the gate with some awful mutant racism. Like, wow, the way that they have already killed this young girl and then take another young girl. And I think it's very clever because Homecoming opens with Damage Control coming in and taking all the tech from Toombs and his crew. In No Way Home, they are interrogated by Damage Control. This has all been a through line, whether intentional or not, and we've also had Damage Control in Miss Marvel and in Wonder Man. Very clearly, Damage Control is going to become a big thing in the Mutant Saga, which is where we're kind of headed next after Secret Wars. And what's also interesting about the Mutant Saga is not only is Jean Grey introduced in this film, there's another thing introduced that will probably become very, very important because Peter Parker, or should we call him Peter Oppenheimer, has invented mutant suppressant technology. He's made a device that can suppress someone's powers. And in the comics, that's a thing. X-Men The Last Stand has the mutant cure. That is going to be presumably an element of the Mutant Saga. And it's all Peter Parker's fault.
God damn it, Peter. Magneto, he's not going to be happy. He accidentally made a weapon for Damage Control, really.
Yeah.
Like what Banner did, that's a piece of cake. You know, what he did with this and this.
Child's
and that.
play.
Not realizing that's going to be a massive consequence. That'll be interesting to see how it plays out.
Yeah.
And like he does take accountability, like, oh, sorry, I should really helped you in the first place and not trust so much into Damage Control.
I hope moving forward he doesn't blindly trust institutions as easily because it's very naive. I really enjoy what they do with Hulk. So initially when Hulk comes in, he is Professor Hulk. He still has the attitude and the voice of Professor Hulk. I like how he goes from being Professor Hulk to being pushed that extra way by Jean and becomes the Savage Hulk. It's a fantastic action sequence. I like how at the end of the day, Peter loses that fight very easily, but he manages to say, Bruce, it's me, we're friends, even though we've never seen them on screen together. That's what gets Hulk to second guess himself a little bit.
In the comics, Hulk remembers
Yes.
Peter. Hulk is like, oh yeah, you're Peter. And he's like, how do you remember me?
Yeah.
He's like, well, Bruce Banner does
Yeah.
not remember you, but Hulk does.
That's
Now
cool.
I realize.
I do think it's a bit silly that the final thing we see of Bruce is him being wheeled away to God knows where.
Oh,
the news
God.
is like, yeah, the Hulk went mad. And it's like, whoa, is that all we're going to get? If I was to give this film a criticism, there's a lot going on. It's a very, very packed film. Sometimes the pacing suffers because of that. There are a lot of elements that we just don't get to see that I think we needed to see. What happened to Bruce is one of those. Maybe that could have been the post-credit scene. The post-credit scene, it's a Spidey tracker gag. We don't have a mid-credits or anything like that. Maybe that's where we could have found out what happened to Hulk. Maybe we could have seen Spider-Man visiting him. I just think that the fact they dropped that so readily is such a shame. And also, we see Peter's life revolves around Spider-Man and moping and going to May's grave and stuff like that. But how the heck is this boy funding his lifestyle? He does live in a crappy apartment, but he's got all this tech. We see him eating out. And I just think to myself, do you have a job? Are you dumpster diving again? Did May leave you a bunch of money? I have so many questions. It's just one of those things where like there's just a little bit more texture that I think it needed to give. We have a couple of scenes with Yelena. Really great to see her.
Yeah.
Florence Pugh is great as always, but I don't think those scenes are necessary. I don't think the information that she gives him. The first scene, she basically says, yeah, I don't know, go and ask the director of the DDC. He could have figured that out himself. There isn't a lot that you can cut, but I would have much preferred to see a little bit more of Peter's life. A little bit more texture to it than those Yelena scenes.
They are good scenes, but they just don't really add anything to the story at all. I think what they were trying to do is make New York as like, oh yeah, so at the events of New Avengers, Yelena's there as Black Widow.
I don't think we've ever heard her be called Black Widow before. That's cool.
No, so that's a really nice way of introducing her as Black Widow. That is really cool to see her getting that mantle. But yeah, I think it could have been a bit more focused on his life, really. And then there was a whole thing, Jabba the Hutt's in this movie? Jabba the Hutt is in this movie? That's crazy to me. He's there.
That's one for the Star Wars fans. I think you mean Lando Calrissian is in this movie. Emanis Fandi, who plays Ezra in Ahsoka, he is MJ's new boyfriend and has one scene.
Scene. There was one scene where MJ asks, like, hey, can I become my friend? That leads to asking MJ about her boyfriend, and they're like, oh, I'm withholding.
There's clearly more to that relationship.
And especially for this film as well, it's even more heartbreaking because MJ discovers Peter's letter to explain about what happened in the events of No Way Home and who he is and his memories with MJ. And then MJ's like, I don't have those memories and I don't love you. Oh, that really hurt me in the cinema. I was like, damn.
She says, take off your mask because I think I deserve to look at the person, that you're saying that you are. I just think it's so good. They don't get back together. And at the end, when you see her on the roof of their high school with the remnants of the necklace, it depends how you want to look at it. For me, I very much see it as closure. I don't necessarily think that this relationship needs to go on in the MCU. I think that, like with Guardians 3, that's just life. Sometimes that's what happens. We love people, we lose them, people move on. Do I think that's what's going to happen? No way. I think Peter and MJ will almost definitely get back together, but if it's handled as well as it has been handled in this film, then go for it. Yeah. But at the same time, the film ends with Peter and Ned getting back together. They were just as important to each other as Peter and MJ. And I think that the idea of it all being through muscle memory and Peter doing the handshake, again, you can read that ending however you want to. It's almost like I don't want to see a sequel to this because so much of it ends on just you can interpret how it ends. Does Ned remember Peter? We don't know. He says his name. Is that him realizing who he is based on him knowing that Spider-Man's called Peter? Is he actually remembering him? Is he just getting one flicker? I mean, we know that Ned has some sort of magic in him after No Way Home. So, like, does the spell work on him a different way? It's all up to interpretation, but it's so brilliant and it's so beautiful that it ends on just this lovely human moment of the film telling us that things can be okay for Peter Parker. As he learns throughout the film, he doesn't have to be alone. He's not alone. He's got the city of New York. He's got Jean DeWolf. He's got Frank Castle. And now he's got Ned. I love it. Cinema.
And when that moment happened with the handshake, my cinema was like, oh my God.
Really?
It was such a good ending.
I mean, this film is gonna be an absolute smash hit. If you can believe it, it is on track to make $900 million in its opening weekend. That is insane. That is almost 4 times the highest grossing opening weekend of this year already, yes. And will be the biggest opening weekend of all time aside from Endgame. And this isn't the film with the other Spider-Men. This isn't the big multiverse one. It's just a human story, and it's a great story, and I think that's so cool.
Yeah, wow. Well, we're not stopping for this year. I mean, this is a really cool film. We've got Doomsday. It's going to feel like a hangover. After the high of Brand New Day.
For me, in a lot of aspects, Doomsday and Secret Wars are like, if I could just get past these, maybe we'll have some good stuff in the Mutant Saga. I do have a couple of things that I want to say about Marvel's future, but the film is great. Go see it. If you're a fan of MCU Spider-Man, this will probably knock your socks off. It's one of the best MCU movies, I think. It's definitely one of the best since Endgame. It's just hitting on all cylinders. It even makes the ending of Homecoming better. Homecoming ends with the gag where Aunt May sees Peter in his suit. She goes, what the fuck? And then that's it. We never get any kind of semblance to what that conversation was like. But we literally get flashbacks in this film. We see the aftermath of that, or at least around that time where May talks to Peter about how that kind of life can be difficult and how losing people and going through changes is a lot to handle. And that also ties in with Jean's arc as well. And it's great to see Marissa Tomei back. If you could have asked me 100 things that this film would have done, I would not have said it would have improved the ending of Homecoming.
I was so surprised because I was like, hold on a minute. That addition alongside with Jean Grey in that scene where it's like, you're important, you don't have to fight things alone, you are loved, you're special. I thought that was brilliant. This is a really, really important moment for Peter. It's a perfect moment here to be placed in this movie. That was really, really good how they placed it there.
Yeah, it was. But I gotta get some stuff off my chest, John, because Marvel is not in a good place right now. It's made some good stuff recently, but as a company, as a filmmaking studio, it's kind of despicable. The same day as Spider-Man was released, Wonder Man was cancelled. This comes off the back of many projects led by people of colour being cancelled, their characters sidelined, get little marketing, all of which speaks volumes about Marvel. And then we have the atrocious firing of the Marvel VFX workers after they just unionised in favour of pushing AI in the company. And then we have the way pro-Palestine actors like Mark Ruffalo have been treated. Zero interviews and press for Spider-Man. All of this while the MCU now reverts back to its factory settings, where every film and TV show in Phase 6 and beyond, it seems, are all slated to be led by men, with women heroes being replaced and reduced, and outside of Black Panther, leading roles for people of colour are zero. No word on any of this by Feige, who as ever weasels away and will come out of the woodwork at D23 to show trailers of Vision Quest and Doomsday. Everything we've had from Marvel at the moment has been cowardly, embarrassing, and truly disappointing when the films they've made seem to have been getting better. But none of that matters because this is like a proper issue at the core of their practices as a company. It's awful.
The most frustrating thing is, well, Mahershala Ali called out Marvel.
I also read this. Just fucking awful.
So he said, quote, "You had me under contract. They have billions of dollars. If they wanted to do the movie, we would have done the movie. I feel ready to move on from the Blade questions. Those questions are for them." Quote. It's so unfair. They had this movie in pre-production for such a long time and they didn't do anything about it. He trained a year for this movie to be Blade. It just doesn't make any sense. And it sucks because for Destin Cretton, he directed Wonder Man. It's so confusing because that series got announced in March saying we're making a season 2. And then yesterday, this time of recording, they decided to drop that bomb out of nowhere where it's been highly praised, one of the best Marvel shows or media ever. What is going on?
To me, this is the company showing its hand, showing what's important. It's also a lack of transparency. We have this quote from Mahershala Ali, and then Feige recently in an interview said that he feels a bit stupid for not making it work. But it's like, we should have had transparency a long time ago. First of all, don't announce it if you're not even close to production. But also, as a company, you need to be real with us. I am happy that they're focusing on quality over quantity, but it seems that they're not even trying to follow the things that have clearly been popular. The fact that a show that gets about 7 viewers, like Daredevil, gets 3 seasons, but She-Hulk, which is one of the most popular Marvel shows, gets 1, with no hint of the character being anything else, I just think it's ridiculous. And yes, we can sit here and say that Spider-Man was amazing, because it was. And we can sit here and say the MCU is having a pretty good run, because it is. But truly, at the core of this company is some really unsavory stuff. We've got Vision Quest, and then we've got sloppy Avengers, and then we've got Sean Levy's Ghost Rider, and yeah, okay, we've got Ryan Coogler, Black Panther 3 after that, that'll be great. But like, why would I be excited for the future when you've continuously mistreated seemingly every single actor who isn't just a white guy, made promises that you haven't kept, and spent basically a decade scrambling for an audience that doesn't exist anymore?
It clearly doesn't, yeah.
We're the people who've been watching all this shit. So you should be catering to those people who have stuck by you, because the audience will come from that. Brand New Day is not a film that caters to the old audience, and it will be your biggest film. Thunderbolts was very, very well reviewed, and it did not cater to the audience that Doomsday is clearly trying to cater to, and that Deadpool and Wolverine is clearly trying to cater to. Is the money really more important than losing the faith of your fans, who are the only people who are watching all your stuff? Oh, I don't want to leave this on such a sour note, but it's just, I hate studios. I hate companies. It's so anti-art. I think it's absolutely fucked.
I completely agree everything what you just said there. It's just awful. Movies are very hard to make, but it shouldn't be this difficult to make. Especially like
Come on.
$1 billion company. This is crazy. Right, I don't think we should end this on a really negative note. Wasn't Spider-Man amazing?
Great movie.
It's great.
What are you going to give it out of 10?
I'm going to give it an 8.
Me too. Brilliant. Just great stuff. Thank you everybody for listening. Wherever you're coming from, YouTube, Spotify, Apple, whatever, you can like, follow, subscribe, give us a 5-star review, all that good stuff. And next week, John, oh boy, the talk of evil studios continues, because we are talking about Avatar Aang, The Last Airbender. Oh God. Goody. Oh goody. And we've got Coyote versus Acme coming up. Oh, it's the era of studios being the worst.
Oh my God. Yeah, wow. This is so depressing.
Woo! Yeah, and you can send us an email. Let us know your thoughts on Avatar Aang. I'll answer it on the podcast next week. That is in the description.
Yeah, so you can follow us on Instagram at Out of Time Film Pod to see our incredible thumbnails from Zain, on Twitter for more thoughts from Tom and me, and TikTok to see edited clips, which are all also on Instagram Reels and YouTube Shorts. And you can find links to that all in the description below. Thanks to Elle for the excellent theme and Ronan for logos as always. And I think that's everything. Take away given.
Give nothing back.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.